Empower 11, the best of its kind in a highly transformative time. Are you empowered? Ready to turn your life up to 11? Awaken the life of who you are on the inside to match the life you were meant to live on the outside. Empower 11. Now is your time.
Empower 11 Radio. Greetings and welcome to Empower 11 Radio. This is the live 1-hour show that we bring to you every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. That is 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Today is February 27th, 2013, and we are coming to you from Santa Barbara County, where it is a beautiful day here in California, USA. You are either listening to us live on Spreaker, which is a platform that we come to you on. You can download a Spreaker app for your iPhone or Android phone for free, so make sure you take advantage of that. Or you're listening to us on empower11.com. On our homepage, we now have a new little widget thing there that you can listen to us from the convenience of our homepage. Or you're listening to us, maybe this is something you're listening to us later on iTunes. It could be because we podcast our shows immediately after we're done recording. For more information about Empower 11, go to empower11.com. That's the word empower, the number one.com. And be sure to like us on Facebook and keep up with everything that's going on with Empower 11. It's facebook.com/empower11. And we always love getting your feedback, questions, what have you. Send them to info@empower11.com. I am Jack Voorhees, and I am sitting next to the beautiful, talented, yummified Ann Ribley.
Hi there, Jack Voorhees. Happy to be doing the show with you. You are quite spectacular yourself there, you business genius, with all your warm compassion and insights to empowering life.
So last week we did a show on becoming your own life coach. And we got some pretty cool reactions to that. There's one thing I'd like to say is that I feel that having a life coach could be really beneficial to your life. But I also know that not everyone can afford one, but everybody can afford to become their own life coach.
And I'm excited about today's topic because I feel that it merges with this idea of be your own life coach and finding your voice. Finding that true champion voice inside of you that really champions for you as a life coach. Whether we go out and we get additional coaching and mentoring and all of that becomes additions, but beginning with that core piece. Finding your own voice, being your own life coach.
Yeah, we all have this voice inside of us. This voice that's talking to us, that we have dialogue with, this internal voice that we have. But I've known that it has not always been people's best friend. Sometimes people can be very hard on themselves. And the voice can talk in a really mean and nasty way that you wouldn't speak that way to somebody else. But yet, we can get in this place where we can feel comfortable speaking that way to ourselves.
Well, you wouldn't coach somebody that way, being mean and critical and degrading. So the merging of last week's show with this week's show, a perfect example about how important it is to be your own life coach, and knowing and finding that voice was exemplified with the great Muhammad Ali. I just love the example that he gave, because what happened...
I met him, by the way.
Did you really?
Yeah. So, but it was later on in his career when he wasn't doing as well health-wise.
Well, what's so fantastic about him is he's considered one of the most popular, famous athletes that we've witnessed. And the reason why is because he
floats like a butterfly and he stings like a bee.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he is the greatest. And how did he become the greatest? Because he coached himself that way at proclaiming it and using the power of his voice to state it and be it and live it. And then what he did is he got all his additional coaching and mentoring in his craft, in his field, in his sport, to find his own unique way in order to be the best and the greatest. And he's known for being the greatest because of his character as a person and his talent and dedication that he used to figure out his own unique style with the sport of boxing.
Yeah, he was an outspoken champion for himself. And that's some people would say, hey, that's egotistical, but being humble does not mean denying your greatness. That is a quote I often use from myself. But there's a balance between being humble and denying your greatness. And being humble doesn't mean denying your greatness. That we can be a champion for ourselves. I mean, look, we are a gift. We are a gift to the world, and the world is a gift to us. And we need to get into that really good place within ourselves, that place where we harness that pure gem, that jewel of who we are, and we polish it and sharpen it and present it to the world.
That is that core place. And what I love about the example of Muhammad Ali is not only did he exemplify that in the sport, but he exemplified that from the core of who he was when he refused to be drafted to go fight in the Vietnam War. Mm-hmm. And at that time, his outspokenness was not an accepted... There wasn't a lot being outspoken yet about the Vietnam War when he did that. And when he even did that, he did it at a point, even at a time where Martin Luther King was even afraid to outspeak so much because he didn't want that to undermine the civil rights movements that he was doing. And when he saw Muhammad Ali use the power of his voice, the core of who he was, to be willing to be a champion and stand out from that true place. This is where we're getting into where we're the Empower 11 symbol, where we're whole in all the aspects of what we can be whole with in our world and our vibrational harmony with the world around us. And that's what Muhammad Ali did when he refused to be drafted. It created a bigger conversation in our world about the war and the right to choose to not have to go fight in a way that was not it was contrary to his personal belief.
Yeah, well, he was in the truth of who he was, who he is. Has he passed away? I don't know if he's still with us.
I don't know either.
Yeah,
but
he was in this truthful place of who he was, and he wouldn't compromise who he was, his values for anything.
And so I just find his life such an example of it, because we know the quotes and what he accomplished professionally in the sports arena, but he also did it in his personal life as well, because he was congruent. And with how he used his ability to coach himself and how he used finding his voice.
And that's, the pure essence of Empower 11. It's getting into that good place within yourself and having your outside world become a match to that. And it's also about, when we talk about turning your life up to 11, it's not just in one area of your life. To be healthy, you have to eat all the food groups. You have to. It's a balance. And what I found early on is if I lower the bar in any area of my life, it affects every area of my life. So when we talk about this Empower 11 stance, That's about bringing everything in your life into a higher vibrational place. This pure, beautiful tune, this hum of the tuning fork that resonates.
When we were coming up with today's show and outlining all of our material, one of the things I kept saying to Jack is we got to go back to the fact that when you get into that good place with yourself, and then Jack, you were talking about, and then trusting that place, because that is where we do reap the most rewards and the greatest rapport with life, is when we get into that good place.
Yeah. A lot of people don't trust the voice inside of them, so they won't listen to that. They deny it because their voice is maybe not refined enough, maybe hasn't always served them well, maybe doesn't speak to them in a kind, loving way. When you talk to your children and you talk to them in a disciplining way, and you go on about how you're disciplining them, you go on so much they start to tune you out.
You lose power.
Yeah.
It now becomes a disempowering.
Mm-hmm. When the conversation goes on, or the lecture, we're lecturing them for too long, it loses its power. And then the more and more this lecturing goes on, then the more and more we can get tuned out. And we will tune out of our own internal voice.
Wow. And I know, like, firsthand how detrimental that has been on relationships, is when one harps too long on the other person, or however it pings back and forth. What can happen is there can be this tuning out and something.
Yeah, and a disconnect.
Yeah, becomes
right.
Disempowering is what I was going to say.
And we're not only talking about the disconnect there, we're talking about the disconnect with your internal voice. This voice that speaks to you and helps to guide you and should be your best friend. But when we're too hard on ourselves, we don't talk to ourselves in a kind and loving way, then we can start to tune out that voice. And that is a disconnect within yourself.
So one of the most powerful aspects of finding your voice is understanding that it is unique unto you. I know Jack and I are doing this training right now, and one of the things that we've learned from a vocal coach is how everybody is born with literally a unique voice. Our voice, our actual vocal cords and the sounds that we make and emanate are unique in every single person. And I know a lot of times, Jack, you'll quote about, we all come into the world with this unique DNA, and we have these unique gifts to give, and those who get into that good place, this is a lot of your famous sayings that you say over and over again because they're such cornerstones to the core. But it's really interesting to think we actually come into the world with a unique voice and a unique sound. Mm-hmm. So our expression that we're meant to give is and the more we can stay in that place where we're in vibrational harmony with it.
Yeah, the more we can get into that really good place within ourselves, and that we trust the voice, and we trust the voice to express itself and to come out in these vocal tones and these words that resonate and that are in alignment with who we are, then we can speak up, we have more confidence, and our voice is received better. I mean, people will want to hear what you have to say. You ever go to a party and there's all these people making this small talk and everything, and it's like, sometimes it's just so damn boring for me. I'm sorry that it like gets like painful to hear like this blah 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 stuff. And nobody really remembers, this blah, blah, blah stuff. They remember the person they made a connection with. And why did they make a connection with that person? Well, that person spoke from who they were, and it resonated with you. You had a great conversation with somebody, and you'll remember that. But this blah, blah, blah stuff, I don't know about that. who's on what basketball team or whatever and stuff. And that's all fine to have conversation like that, just to talk and just to be with people and stuff. That's fine. But if you want to stand out, if you want to be, if you're in this unique place, you will stand out. You will be remembered, and a lot of people will show up at your funeral.
It's having, even if you were to talk about current events in whatever areas that are happening, it's having your own unique voice on it that people remember. I remember that I read this article, as you're saying this, Jack, about Ralph Lauren, and because he's a designer and it's in the world that can seem superficial. I remember reading that was one of the things about him with going to parties is he said, I don't do well in the meaningless blah, blah, blah conversations. Mm-hmm. So I'll be the guy over there in a small group if we're going to have a real conversation.
Yeah.
And so the point that I have with that is that expression, that conversation, those words that he's saying in that kind of setting are exactly the same unique factor of what put him in that position to begin with, is that somehow he's always held on to, I have something to say, whether it be through his art, through his fashion, mm-hmm. and it's unique and it's of value, and I will not allow it to become diluted with the blah, blah, blahs.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting fact about him, he's a big car guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, big car collector, and the more he got into his unique self, the more he expressed his unique stuff, the more that people wanted this unique stuff, and the more that he could express himself in a unique way and live his unique life. And I mean that's cool. Like, I don't know. I'm sure there's people that just want to kind of stay under the radar and stuff and just kind of live some kind of mediocre kind of life or whatever, and they're okay with the 2-week vacation at the end of the year or something like that. I mean, there are those people, and I mean, I've myself tried to find like I have peace with people and where they're at in their journey. But I do believe that there is something more. That I do believe that when people stifle their greatness, their creativeness, their power to make this world better just by being themselves, I think that's a disconnect.
Okay, well, when I was 20 and I was going through college, I had, I was kind of groomed my whole life to become a doctor in the healthcare profession, more in the natural field. And, I was told this, and that's what was expected, to become that. And I remember sitting in, and I always had a desire to write. That creative part of me was always there and gnawing at me and haunting me. And I remember sitting in college. So what I took for an elective was a creative writing class. And I remember sitting in that class and the teacher saying, I love writing. When you're talking about stifling the voice, I love writing, but he said, I am too hard on myself to ever release anything to the world. And I thought, and this was a creative writing class in college. And I thought,
that's horrible.
I know. And so I said to myself, what is he going to teach me? If he says, I'm too hard on myself to release anything to the world. Yeah. And I remember it was kind of like I felt like I had this divine shove, like in that moment that I left the class that day. And I walked out of there and I said, I know what I'm going to do with my life. And it was this idea that I wasn't going to stifle my voice and what I had to say by going into a career that wasn't necessarily something that I was picking for myself, that was a match to the voice I want to live. And so I decided at that moment I was going to go into writing as my career. And then it was shortly after there I started my whole lifestyles newspaper that I had running for 18 years with over a million circulating annually that was based on a paid subscription.
What if Van Gogh never released any of his paintings? What if the Mona Lisa never came because somebody felt they weren't a good enough painter to release anything to the world. What if the guy said, "Oh, I got this idea for building this structure in Paris, this tower, but I don't know. I'd have to put myself out there, and that's scary. Somebody could say something." Bad to me or something, and that wouldn't feel good, so I'm just not going to do that.
So there's a couple of ways that our voice becomes our living statement to the world. It's the actual words that we're speaking from the orientation of where we're at truly within ourselves, in the core of ourselves. And then there's the words we're speaking, and then there's the actual life that we're living, and it should be a living expression of that core place. Mm-hmm. And that's what I found so fascinating about just looking at the analogy of Muhammad Ali, is because how he boxed is also how he lived his personal life, and how when he was called to go to war, he was not in conflict with himself. He was actually at peace with understanding the core of who he was.
Yeah, interesting, a non-violent boxer.
I know.
Yeah. Well, that's unique, that's being the truth of who you are.
Right. So that's what I think is so fascinating about his story, in relevance with last week's topic of become your own life coach to this week's topic of finding your voice, and how he lived an example of the merging of the two, of what we were trying to, the progression we're making with these two topics.
Okay, so we've talked about this unique factor. So it's the truth of who you are. It's understanding that you have something to say and that you have worthiness. That you have something to offer the world. That your gifts should not be stifled. We talked about the core of you. I mean, when we talk about the truth of who you are, it's this core. It's not what you look like. It's not what you dress like. It's not necessarily what you talk like. It's the inner self, the soul of who you are.
I know American Idol took off and was such a popular show because what happened what happened with us watching it is we actually got to witness the unveiling of someone's uniqueness rise up. Mm-hmm. And the more somebody was able to do that with the expression of who they were as an artist, literally even with their voice, it resonates with us because that's what we want for ourselves as well. And you could see just watching that uncovering. I mean, I know, Jack, that you're writing a book right now. It's like on business, and it's what you don't do is just as important as what you do in business. And your opening analogy is like the artist with the sculpture. I mean, this is what we're talking about with.
Yeah, it's about the artist that sees that perfect statue in this big block of marble, and it's there, and all he's got to do is remove what doesn't belong to get to that core beauty.
And so that's what's interesting in what made American Idol, I feel, just a natural phenomenon of a hit, was because you got to watch that happen. You got to watch people start to eliminate what wasn't working for them so that what could work for them began to rise up.
So we're talking about the truest parts of you, the best parts of you, the soul of who you are. It's a place that comes naturally. There's no manufacturing involved. It's just this natural state of fluidity of being who you are, and it's the expression of that. It's that comes from the heart. It's how you communicate who you are with this voice. It's the way we express love. It's the way that we communicate our purpose, and the way that we talk to ourselves about this purpose. When I say it's a way we express how we love. I mean, when you say I love you to somebody, that's an expression of love. And I gotta say, if your partner asks you to say "I love you," to tell, like, say, if your partner says to you, "Tell me you love me," then tell them. And don't say like, well, you should know that I love you. I shouldn't have to tell you that. We've been together for 25 years, and all the stuff that I have done and we have experienced together, you should just know that I love you. No, the words are powerful. If somebody's asking for those words, give them those words, and give them often. You know, when I tell Anne I love you, I probably say it a lot, right?
You do.
Okay.
I'm a lucky woman.
Yes, and then sometimes, yes, but you are a lucky woman.
No, but the thing of it is, Jack, is that you express it. This is back to my point of the show. You not only express it, you live it congruently. And I know that I grew up in a home where my dad did not say I love you a lot to my mom. I mean, we were told that to our kids. But the reason why he didn't is because he said, growing up, he had this aunt and uncle that would constantly be saying, "Oh, I love you, I love you, I love you." And they would be kissing at each other. And then he said they would fight like crazy cats and dogs later. So it was such a mixed signal to him that saying I love you did not mean I love you. So my dad he was more that classic thing where my whole life is an expression of showing you I love you. Now, what I've come to embrace in my own way is like hearing the words and seeing it. It's so powerful, hearing the words and seeing it actually congruently throughout our lives. That's what's the magic and the power.
I love you, Anne.
I wish you could see how he's looking at me. It's with meaning.
Okay, and then often I will say it 3 times. And I don't really, it's not a conscious thing, but I will say it, 3 times when I really want to make sure that she is getting it. I will say it 3 times.
Because your words have tremendous power. We are manifesting our world by our words. It goes back to biblical verses. God spoke, it was done.
God said, "Let there be light," and there was light.
And Jack said, "I love you, let there be love," and there is love.
Yes. So this voice, your voice, speaks to you with inner wisdom, and it's up to us to develop our own voice and get to a place where we can really trust that voice. And the words that actually start to come out of your mouth, they're in a vibrational frequency and sound and tone that is in a harmony with who you are. So, I think that many would be taken back if they could be like recorded throughout their day and hear themselves and some of the words that they say, and you might cringe a little bit. I know there's many out there that they don't have that connection. They're not in congruency. The words that are coming out of their mouth don't represent who they are. There's a disconnect.
I want to hang out in that spot just a little bit here, Jack, because this is what I come back to, is that this is the core of the show. In that if there's one takeaway that is the most important life changer, game changer, understanding in all of it, it's getting into that good place within inside ourselves and trusting it. Because when we know we are in that good place, then we can trust not only ourselves to life, we can trust life more. And I just went through an experience recently where I had a court date that I got called to go to that dealt with my child support order, and I wasn't prepared in in any capacity to know how it was going to come out, and it came out fantastic. And I said to Jack, it was so good to just kind of walk in and be in that good place, and then life just mirrors back that good place back to you. And I feel like if we could develop our trust with when we don't necessarily know the outcomes or how things are going to be, but we know that we're going to function from that orientation of that good place within ourselves, we can trust the process of life more. And I think people would unleash more of their gifts, more of their expressions, more of what they have to say.
And they could trust their inner voice more. They could, their inner voice would be telling them and helping them to guide them. You have these feelings sometimes, like something, a premonition, or, and then you'll say, oh, that's probably just my wild imagination. And then that's not really in this place of trusting yourself. That's not really in this place of really getting in congruency with the voice inside of you. I gotta tell you, I had this girlfriend that she told me, she said, Jack, you know that nanosecond before you speak? Stop. Okay, the thing is, she was a little bit of a mousy kind of a girl, she was like, oh my God, constantly, I can't believe you said that. I can't believe you said that. Because, I'm not a small talk guy. I'm a guy that is known for
saying it like it is.
Yes.
That's all I heard when I first started working with Jack, is that, oh, he's a say it like it is kind of guy.
Well, why would you say it like it isn't? Life is short.
That's what's funny that you talk about that nanosecond, because I actually think the first time that you told me you loved me, you said, I want to tell you something, Ann. And this was actually before we even met in person. And this was when we began working together, and this whole relationship started developing, and it was through Skype on working together on this project. And as it evolved, one day you said to me, I want to tell you something, Ann, and I feel like I should be using a nanosecond. I'm like, no, don't. And then you go, I'm not going to. I love you. And you said it like from that depth of who you were. And it was like, wow.
Yeah, I know the people that are in the place where they have a disconnect within themselves, and they need that nanosecond because that voice hasn't been refined enough yet. They haven't gone deep enough and developed that yet to get a really good trust of who they are, so then they don't trust the words that are coming out of their mouth, or maybe they shouldn't trust the words that are coming out of their mouth.
Yeah, that's more of that reactive place that's just circulating, and it's not to the depth of this more responsive, which I love to talk about. What does responsibility mean? When you break the word down, it's the ability to respond. And when we have that self-responsibility and we own it from the depth and the core of who we are, then we also own our ability to respond in ways that line up and are congruent in our life.
So ask yourself, do your words adequately reflect who you are? And I think if we could hear ourselves, if we could kind of go back and listen to ourselves during our day, like I was talking about, we could get a better understanding. But just by paying attention would be really important. But your voice comes out in many ways, and I think we talked about this a little bit, but it's not just the words that come out of your mouth, because that is a vibrational expression of the voice within inside of you. But there's other ways that they come out. There are other forms, other ways of expression that this voice gets heard in different ways through your actions, and it could come out in, say, music. If you're a musician, your voice could really come out and resonate in the way that you express the notes through an instrument, or maybe you make music, or you play the guitar, what have you. And also in art, the artist way, the way in which you get this, you express your inner beauty.
I also like to look at the way that you love. I like
to look at the way you love.
The voice of who we are, though, really gets expressed in the way that we love. And it's like, as a parent, as a lover, as a partner, the way that you love is really an expression. And if you can find that voice of your way to love, I just feel like it is so rich. There's so much that's available. I remember we were getting to know each other, and you said to me, yeah, well, you don't know the Jack way of love. And I go back to that thinking it's not just in intimacy, but it's in all your ranges, Jack. And it's like it's irreplaceable because it's so unique in your style, in your way. And that it just fills my heart. And we think if all of us gave that same capacity in all of our ways with how do we love in our lives.
Well, and you are nothing but love. I mean, you are like, if you look up love in the dictionary, there should be your face right there, because you are the one. Just who said to you once, the problem with you, Ann, is you think that love's the answer to everything.
Yes. I love that problem. Because I really do feel it solves a lot. And, another thing, it was funny because that was what was commented as well at another time in a different kind of way, is they're like, gosh, Ann, you just put so much love into the food you make. Well, it's like that's back to my thing about what is your voice, your way that you love. And even in the food that you make and you put in your body, well, my God, why wouldn't you want it to feel loving, this food you're going to put into your body, instead of it just being about, which you say how you get there is how you stay there. If the means to get there are not in a place of loving vibration, then the end result doesn't feel imbued with that same loving vibration. So it's like, I want to infuse love as my voice and my way that I do all of my life.
Yeah, if you have to lie, cheat, steal, what have you to get to the top, then you're going to have to lie, cheat, steal to stay at the top. And that's not the way to, if you can get to the top, you can get to the place that you want to be in a place of ease and flow, then you'll be able to stay there in ease and flow.
All right, I want to talk about that a little bit more too, because you just brought that up a little bit ago about how that when you find your voice and it becomes like congruent with how you express yourself to the world, it's actually a lot easier. And that's where you get into this ease and flow of your life, because you don't have to work so hard figuring out everything, figuring out what you should say or what you should do, because you really are in the most, natural, good place within inside yourself to be in that ease and flow.
So I recently visited my mother, and she was telling me about some third, fourth cousin. I don't know who, but the interesting thing that she was telling me about him was that 1 month a year he goes on a retreat where he doesn't speak.
Oh yeah, I've got some friends that have done that. I know Deepak Chopra does that too. Him and his wife.
Well, I mean, I really think that's got to probably help you get in touch with that inner voice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why meditation is so powerful. Because, we have all these thoughts that are just firing up. And in our thoughts, a lot of times we think they are us. And thoughts that are constantly firing up are really the mind's way. And the mind is just a tool. And a lot of people think they are their minds. And all these thoughts we're thinking. But the mind is just a tool that's attempting to solve a problem, solve something in our life, so it'll keep repeating it, it'll keep looking at it until it gets rest and it gets some solution or direction. So meditation, which is the same thing of like these silent retreats that you're talking about, Jack, what meditation does, it begins to put space between all of those voices in the head, all those thoughts that are firing up constantly. It starts to put space in it so that you actually become the owner of the real voice inside.
Yeah, I think that I know there seems to be a problem with people and the voices in their heads, and trying to quiet them and trying to stop this noise, because it's not in a place that's in a good vibrational harmony with where they're at, or who they are. So they try to silence the voices, and they can try to do it with drugs and alcohol, or some form of distraction.
Right.
It's like TV or
shopping.
Yeah, what have you. It's like what are they doing to? But that's just like trying to cover up a scar with some mud or something. I don't know if that's a good analogy, but it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. You gotta go. You gotta go there. You gotta go on the journey. You gotta go and go and face your demons or what have you.
Actually, I have a good how-to for these, because I know when I was going through a major life change in my life, and there was a lot of unknowns. So when you get some of that happening, these voices can become active because they're trying to, like, the voice of reason, the voice of the past, the voice of the future, all, different personalities, the voice of family members, the voice of culture, society, they take on different personalities inside the head, but all these different voices. What happened is, for me, is that I know, because this is actually truth with how we work physiologically, how the actual body physiology works, is our state is more solid first thing in the morning. Our actual body physiology is more solid. And as the day goes on, this orientation, this is why we need sleep, to solidify, set the restorative, recuperative, solid state of us, has to stay into. That's why sleep is the one thing that we can go the least amount of time without. We can go longer without water. We can go longer without food, but we cannot go. The body will literally shut down, because if it has to, without us willing it or trying to have it be. I'm talking in a natural state. There's a lot of manufactured, forceful things you can do to keep the body awake. With taking drugs and stuff, or substances. However, left in its own natural state, the body will shut down and go to sleep, because it needs that to solidify itself, to become solid again. And what happens is as the day goes on, our ability, actually, if you went to look at actually our cellular structure, it is more solid in the morning than it is at the end of the night. So even our minds, what happens is the mind is not as strong and as solid in the orientation it wants at the end of the night. That's where these different demons and voices, demons, so to say, or voices start getting a lot more power, because our place is not as strong. And so when I was going through this major life change, I started to notice when I would start to feel different insecure feelings, and I said, I need to go to bed. Because what happens is that once we go to bed, it's a way to quiet all of that. It's a way to reset ourselves, infuse ourselves back in with God-giving, God-like energy, and be more of a stronger, solid version of ourselves. I mean, I look at this on a more simple level with my children. When they're so out of sorts and they're speaking in voices that are very incoherent, I know a good night's sleep changes everything. And so we have that same gift we can give ourselves.
We have that show about Sleep Your Way to the Top.
Yes, we do.
That was a good show.
In which we go deeper into this. But I know this, if there's one thing you want to get stronger hold of how you can be in control of these voices in your head and start being the person that is finding that truest voice, it's getting good night's sleep. It's going to bed the minute you start to feel like something darker or that's not you is starting to speak and have a louder authority inside of you. It's getting into because sleep puts us back into that calm reorientation with ourselves. It's just a powerful how-to I want people to know that's life-changing, one day at a time.
So why is it important to find your voice? Well, it helps you get in a good place within yourself. A place it's high vibrational, it's divine, it's purposeful, it's a place of like less effort and force. It's lines up with this synchrodestiny, this place of being in flow, this place of peace, this. The place where magic can really happen, and you can really feel this place of fulfillment. And those are some of the core reasons why it is so important to find your voice.
I have a question to take from the show and really look at the area to find your voice in. I was having a conversation with my son CJ this morning, and it's kind of interesting. I've seen a pattern now every baseball season that's hit. He always wants to talk about the next season. He always wants to talk. I mean, baseball season literally is just starting today.
He hasn't even had first practice yet.
Yeah, he's going to meet his coach today for the first day. And he was starting to talk to me about next season, what his plans were. And he did this last season too, is him and his brother would actually have fights about what's going to be happening this season. And so what I said to him today is I said, I need you to be here, be now, of what's being asked of you this season. And I want you to do it really well. And when we get to next season, we'll evaluate what we need to be doing then. And what I said to him is, right now for me, I'm in a certain season in my life. Mm-hmm. And that focus has to do with what is that voice? What is that? Finding that voice, articulating that voice, being that voice, and expressing that voice in my career, in my writing path right now, and increasing and expanding that. That is the season of my life I'm in right now. And I ask each of you, what is that season you need to be focusing in on right now? Is it the season of love? Is it time to be in that place where you can't solve everything in your life, but you can at least be in the season that you're in, that life is asking of you right now. Mm-hmm. And whatever that season is, find that voice in it. Find that voice to be that best unique self that you're meant to be right now in this season that life is asking of you.
So Ann, let's get to some of these really, I mean, that was kind of a strong how-to that you just expressed there, but there's ways to get into rapport with this voice inside of you. And I think a lot of it is this maturing. It takes some patience and practice, and to be conscious of where our voice is coming from. Is it coming from the head, or is it coming from the heart? Is it coming from the soul? Because in the soul of who you are is the truth. Really comforting place within ourselves, and then we can have this better rapport with this voice inside of us.
We planning for the show, Jack, I had asked you, or we both discussed, what was it that was probably one of the most significant things that you have done in order to honor the voice of who you are? What would it be for you?
I think it's it probably has a bit to do with getting in a place where I trust myself, and I'm honoring myself to live the life that is meant for me.
Yeah, for me, I would say it was getting into a place where I was not living in such an appeasing way to the outside world, where I was trying to appease everybody around me at the expense of not honoring my own voice of who I am.
Well, it says we've been having some technical difficulties. I hope that this recording is coming through, but let's keep moving forward. Just kind of distracted me there for a moment. From the soul of who we are and what have you. So in that that is a place to be conscious of, that are we speaking purposefully?
Well, I love when you talk about what is being purposefully is being full of purpose. And I think the more we know our voice, the more we can be guided into being full of purpose, because that our means and our ends start to all become lined up and congruent, and it becomes the journey.
So, one of these places that would take us really out of congruency is this place where we lie. If we lie, never lie, because that is just so non-high vibrational. It takes so much energy. It doesn't empower us at all. It's just something, if we tell a lie, then we're not being the truth of who we are.
Okay, well, telling a lie, I feel the greatest, most painful of telling a lie is when we're not honest with ourselves and the life that we should be living. There's those little microcosms that people do on everyday interaction, but there's the bigger lie. It's like getting to this truthful place of who we are, and not telling a lie by projecting ourselves to be any different than what is the truth of who we are.
And it doesn't even have to be a lie. It can be like, stop telling people what they want to hear.
That's good, Jack.
that.
Well, I'm saying for me, I know that was a big thing. Not that I was telling people what they'd want to hear, but I was doing, which is still a form of it. I was doing a lot to appease people on an immediate level, but it was at the expense of myself, which is a form of a lie to honoring myself.
That's true. There's, and then, we don't speak to people that don't want to hear what we have to hear. It's, I'll tell you this. I met this guy. We were doing a talk in the Dominican Republic. We were speaking to a group of some young, soon-to-be chiropractors, and they, there was this one guy that stuck out to me. He pulled me aside after we spoke, and he said, I just need to get to those people that are resistant to what I want to them to understand, that are resistant to chiropractic. He's the one that I want to go after those people, and I'm just like, wow, that just seems like a huge waste of your energies. Go to the people that are open. These people that are open, you will have a lot more success with, and you'll be able to serve a lot more people, because you'll be serving the people that want to hear what you have to say and want to experience what you have. And this thing, like when people don't agree with us and that we want to go and work so hard to change their mind, it's just not worth it.
Well, that was life-changing for me, is when I heard Oprah say that she made a life-changing decision in her career, where she said, I made the conscious choice on my show that I was speaking to the people who wanted to hear what I have to say. And if you did not want to hear what I have to say, what my show is saying, then you're not the people I'm speaking to. And I remember that having this really profound effect. And that was part of what was in my whole big life change, is that when you talk about appeasing people and all this, actions that can just all we can become so homogenized where we don't even know what is our own originality in this place of life anymore. I remember getting to this place of like, I'm just going to start honoring that place of getting my life in vibrational harmony. And that even included the person I was married to. It's like, that was like a tough gig, to be with somebody who really didn't even want to hear what I had to say, is to get into this vibrational harmony. Oh, well, then you mentioned, Jack, it's not really, they don't want to hear what you have to say. There are people who aren't ready.
Yeah, there's those people that are ready to hear what you have to say right now, and there are people that will be ready to hear what you have to say later. And there's people that will never be ready to hear what you have to say, and you just got to be cool with that.
And so my life moving into vibrational harmony was getting into this alignment where I was actually engaging in relationships and situations that were more in alignment to what I have to say, that are truthful from that core. And I got to tell you, my life is rich. I'm with this fabulous partner here, Jack Voorhees, my soulmate love partner, my business partner, who we are highly collaborative over what each of us have to say. I have awesome friendships that are just so amazing because we are in alignment where we want to hear what each other has to say, and it's so beautiful. And that is such a high vibrational place to live.
Yeah, and those friendships, the cool thing about really good friendships is not having to agree with each other all the time. You know, I mean, there's like some of these friendships, like, yeah, you're in great congruency with and everything, but sometimes you have opposing point of views, and that's okay.
Well, that's what you and I have established very early on.
That you're to agree with whatever I say?
Is that we're both allowed to have our own take on life.
Yeah, and then because we're in that state, then there's no arguing.
Well, everything is room for a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
No one has to be domineering or right.
Yeah, and we don't have to be in this place where we have to prove our point.
Yeah, it was funny because in the minds of our kids, there was this one. They keep talking about the one fight that we had, and we're like, are you talking about the time where we had a difference of opinion? But to them, they just see so much congruency in our love and how we are, and and it wasn't even like there was no yelling or anything. They actually overheard a conversation where we had a difference of opinion, and they were like, "Wow, is this a fight?"
Yeah. Is this what a fight looks like?
Which I think I get a big kick out of it. It's beautiful because actually what it shows is that they can actually see a diverse opinion on something and people still be in grace and love and respect for one another.
Right. So, Anne, you've prepared something that you want to share with us, our meditational moment.
Our Empowered 11 meditational moment. I invite you in. This is from a meditation that I wrote and recorded, which is going to be coming out in some of our programs. I invite you in. It's called Return Home, to own your own original knowing. So wherever you're at, take a few deep breaths in and out, whether you're in your car, whether you're at your desk, wherever you are. I invite you to slow down into this rhythm and flow, to know your own place, to return home. I'm going to share with you a snippet out of it. As you relax into the essence which is your home, it's been calling for your return, asking where you've been. The sounds have been echoed through the hills and valleys. Your name has been called out on the streets and circled around the globe, wondering where you have been. Now that you are here, we meet again. I'm so glad of your return. Welcome. I knew you would make it back to our perfect private place that no one can take away from us, no matter how hard they try. You own it. It belongs only to us. The agreement between us, our partnership for this pulse of life that we've agreed to share, this perfect private place, you are to know, I will nourish your life. I will breathe form into your essence. Your essence will take on its own original shape, the shape that is called you. We will spend our lifetime getting to know the shape of you in the deepest possible knowing, the original knowing we have agreed upon.
Thank you very much, Anne. And thank you, the listener, for spending this hour with us. We hope that you've gotten some tools to help you live a more empowered life. And until next week, have a wonderful and empowered week.
Power 11 Radio.